Right, well, welcome back to the DTW podcast with me, DT. Now, I am over the moon to welcome the legend that is Conor O'Keefe. Conor, how are you, sir?
I'm good, brother. Thanks for having me on.
No hassle at all, mate. Look, I was delighted that you were able to come on because I know how busy you are, and I know, especially this year, mate, you're flat to the mat. I can't go on social media or go on anything without seeing you, and you're making the world a better place, so I'm fucking delighted with that. And so just to be able to have that, I'm privileged to have you on board, and that's real talk. I know we're mates and we've been following each other for a while, but I'm just really honored to have you today. So what I might do, Conor, if it's okay with you, I'll introduce you to the crew in the most minimal way possible, and then you'll go into detail and probably tell me where I got things wrong, all right? That's your job, to tell me where I fucked up. Right. So Conor O'Keefe, so ultra running is what you would have came on my radar day dot. It was like, I knew that you were setting yourself up for these big running challenges. But since then, I just realized that nicest guy in the world, absolute legend, also a Cork man, you know, that does a tick there too, but ultra running is your thing. Can you tell us, what is ultra running, or how did you get into it?
Well, ultra running is like a really impressive way of saying just running for a really long time. That's basically it. Anything that's over a marathon distance is an ultra marathon. So like 50.
Okay.
So like for those of you that don't know what a marathon distance is 26 miles or 42 kilometers. That's what a marathon is. Anything over that is an ultra marathon. So basically, like if you run 50k, you've ran your first ultra, like, you know what I mean? But the ones that I like to run are 100 miles or 162 kilometers or 200 miles, 324 kilometer runs. And to be honest with you, I literally came across ultra, like it was an accident, really, not really even an accident. It was like everything in my life was just like everything else big in my life. Has just been this spur of the moment thing that kind of gained traction and snowballed into something bigger.
Okay, and I don't think it's much bigger than that though. The case that you were saying, I was like, whoa, like I knew it was more than marathon, but like that's unreal and so impressive. And how old were you when you started on this path into ultra marathon? When did you realize, you know what, marathon's just not enough anymore, I'm going to go more and more? Like, how old were you when did this happen?
2 years ago. Like 2 years ago, like I did my first marathon in 2018. So like I did my first marathon in 2018, and it just kind of went from there. Like, you know, like every time I did a big step in terms of running, right, I've been really centering in on this particular point over the last couple of weeks. Is I never had any evidence that I could actually do these runs. You know, I never had any evidence that I could do them. Like when I ran the marathon, I never had run 42 kilometers before, so I didn't know. But I quickly.
Did you do training for that? Did you training for the first marathon? Tell me. Oh yeah, we didn't just wake up on a Sunday. You know, the Cork City Marathon today. Let's just rock up to.
Yeah, we'll just rock up and do it. No, I actually did train for it, but I half trained, half kind of drank myself to the start line. Like, you know, I just.
Okay.
I did. I suppose what lots of people are accustomed to doing, and I burnt the wick at both ends. Like, so, like I was running like 20-kilometer runs and stuff like that, and then like sometimes then I remember nights like this now, right, where I would go out and I'd run like a half marathon, right, and I'd come home and I'd have gotten a text off one of the lads saying, "Oh, we're all meeting up in this pub here. Like, do you want to go out and have a couple of drinks?" I'm like, "Yeah, obviously."
Whoa.
So I get home, I might not even eat anything, maybe like a bowl of spaghetti hoops or something. Like, it was absolutely like not at all nutritious. And then I'd go down to the offie, get a couple of cans, drink them, and then meet the lads. And it's just like, that was basically my whole training camp for this marathon, you know. And so I did the marathon, and then literally it was like 3 weeks later, I was sitting down for lunch with a mate of mine, and I was talking about ultra marathon, and I was talking about a guy, David Goggins. You probably know him. Instagram. I was talking about him, and we were both kind of after getting obsessed with him, like, you know. And I was like, we're going to run 100 miles. We're going to do a 100-mile run. And I said, check there now if there's any, 100-mile runs in Ireland, like, and he was like, oh yeah, I'll check there now. Like, yeah, there's one in Connemara. And he's like, oh, it's in 7 weeks' time. And I was like, book it right now. We're going to do it.
Conor, wow, man.
7 weeks later, we were there, like, it's actually...
Holy shit. Tell me you weren't fueling yourself on spaghetti hoops and Dutch gold at that stage.
I tell you now, right, this is the thing about it when I think back. A week before that, I was actually still kind of doing a few pints and stuff like that in this 7 weeks of training, like, but a week beforehand... I know.
Like 7 years and I still wouldn't finish.
I know.
I'd be on Lucas 8 sport.
It was insane. It was like we had 7 weeks to train for it, and I remember the last week going out and like drinking pints, and I even smoked cigarettes like on the night and everything. And I'm just thinking back at it, and I'm like, it's madness. But we showed up anyway to this 100-miler. And
how are you feeling in the morning of that now? When you rocked up and you were aware that you had 7 weeks to train, you knew that it wasn't by the book. How are you feeling in the morning of that when you're just rocking up?
I knew that I was out of my depth, like beforehand. But like on the actual morning of it, I really realized, because like everybody's there and all their kit and stuff like that. These are guys and girls, like these are lads, these are men and women that are like, honing their craft as ultra endurance athletes. And then there's me and Mark. They're like just in our RSA fucking high-vis tops, like, because we didn't even have like proper high-vis gear on and stuff.
Oh man!
And it was just kind of pain, basically.
I can imagine.
But it was one of those things that taught me a lot of retrospective lessons. Like, I didn't really realize them at the time, but I would learn an awful lot from this whole experience,
Yeah, I get that, mate. And often, like, we just learn things the hard way, or, even though we don't have to, it was probably the steepest, most uncomfortable learning curve, but the learning still happens, and if you don't know and give it a go, you'll never, ever know. But yeah, it's important to learn from these things. Please tell me next one. No, you prepare a little bit better than that, no, Conor, I hope so. And also, right, so just to look, as if the listeners now aren't already thinking, okay, we're talking to a phenom here, like this isn't a normal human being. Like that's what I got when you came on my radar first. I was like, right, so superhuman, kind of ultra human, are we of the same, like, well, look, what you've been up to over the last 2 years, I don't think anybody would argue with that. It is, it's awesome, man, and fair play. And I know you do it all, as well as doing these ultra events that physiologically and physically will push you to the limits. You do a lot of it for great causes as well, which I'm all about and I really respect. And we'll get a chance to talk about that in a while. But so my point was, if my listeners already weren't thinking like, whoa, this guy's has done some feats, please tell me about the patio challenge. I tell my listeners about your patio challenge in Gladbar. I was watching that from up here in Dublin. I was like,
yeah, it's insane. Well, like, basically, I had planned to do Project 32. You knew about Project 32. I had planned to do that with on the 1st of April, I was going to set off and run 32 marathons in 32 days in the 32 counties with the 32 pounds on my back, lose a pound a day until I basically finished with no weight on, and that obviously couldn't happen because COVID was like, what are your plans?
Oh man, I felt so bad for you. Like, you were the one person that immediately, when I knew the year was going to shit, because I had seen you speak at the Thrive Festival. We spoke together at Social Minds here in Tramline, and I knew all the work that was going into that, and all, everybody was excited for you, but I knew that this was something that you were building towards. And as soon as I got conscious of the repercussions of this year, I was like, Conor, I thought of you. But look, like you've always done, you turned into a positive. So tell us.
Absolutely. Like, I suppose I was very grateful to just have flipped my life around, because I was in a bad place mentally for many years before I don't want to say that I found ultra marathon, but it just so happened that I discovered myself during the training for these events, and I really got down to being my own best friend and treating myself with more respect, So like, that's where it all kind of spurred from. Like the reason why I was able to see the positives, and it's so weird to think about it in that way, but the positives of this, of my run being cancelled was because I had already kind of queued up my brain to think in that way, because I've thought of everything. Like the way I thought about it was, if I was given a loved one's body and mind to take care of for a week, what would I do with it? And I probably exercise it, made sure it got good exercise, that it ate the right foods, that it was hydrated, that it got plenty of sleep every night, and that it thought good things about itself, and that it thought good things about its life. So that's the way I said, okay, well, if we were given a loved one's body, why don't we just treat ourselves like that? Because why don't we love ourselves, you know? So when I started to think like that, when this thing was cut short, I was like, okay, well, look, I still actually have so much joy and beauty and hope in my life.
Nice.
So I think we can flip this around and do something mad, you know, and do something cool. And I said, what we'll do is we'll do lockdown on steroids, as you say, and I'm going to run around my patio for 24 hours straight. So like my patio, the loop in my patio was approximately 17 meters. So it was a 17-meter loop.
Wow.
And I ran around that for 24 hours. And
well done, man.
It was one of those things that I only really realized how tough it was going to be, like nearly afterwards, when I actually thought about the levels that I had to go to finish, you know. But it was a tough one.
Yeah, but well done you, man. Well done you. And like, I'm all about that as well, you know, the gratitude and, you know, trying to find positives and everything, because it is there. And like you know, I would have had my struggles in my 20s in a big way. So it does kind of change our perspective on things, and we've built this resilience. But that aside, I was broken for you, but then when you turn into that, I was like, whoa, this is actually very cool what he's doing now. Yeah. I was very excited for you. And yeah, so look, I know you talk a lot about gratitude, and I think out of all the people in Ireland that are in this kind of sphere, you know, that are on the circuit, I think you explain your like relation with gratitude and appreciation. Like, it resonates with me. I think how you express it and how you communicate it to the masses when you are speaking, I think you do it in a wonderful way that's very relatable. So, and you touched on it there, but can you tell us a little bit more? Like, what are your gratitude practices? How do you do it? Why do you value it so much? Tell us about gratitude.
Mine are very simple, I suppose. Like I feel like you see, I say to people, like, you know, about gratitude, because people talk about it in this like very, very general way, where like I feel that like if you actually did the way half the people talk about gratitude online or whatever, if you did what they said, you'd just spend the whole fucking day being grateful for everything, and you'd never get anything done, and it's inefficient. You wouldn't use it. It would just be kind of one of those things that's constantly on your mind, you know. So where I say to people is, like, you have to focus it, you have to use it in a real way. And what I do is, Monday mornings used to be horrible for me. I used to hate them because I hated my job. I hated the way that I was living my life. I was probably hungover. I was probably like in a bad way from the weekend of just putting fucking terrible, you know, drinking, smoking, everything into my body. And just felt like absolute shit. So when I wake up in the morning now on Monday mornings, I feel like it's another opportunity for me to have like a great weekend, for me to discover something about myself, and for me to push forward in this goal of becoming an adventurer. And
nice.
So what I say to people is, I do a gratitude practice in the morning, and I think about something that I'm grateful for. But the main thing and the main ingredient for this is proximity to the time. So proximal. So basically, it has to be something that's within your life of late. So it happened in the last couple of days, or in the last week, or could have happened last night, or something like that, or something you were reminded of in the last couple of days, or the last day or so, that you're grateful for. Because if I say, oh yeah, I wake up on Monday morning, I'm grateful for this house, and I'm grateful that you know, that I have food in my belly, or whatever the case be, yeah, those are fantastic things to be grateful for. But you need to bring it into proximity to your life, so that it tunes your mind to thinking in that kind of way after you leave the bedroom, basically. So when you're in your bedroom and you think about, like, I use this on my Instagram, you went down a hike over the weekend or whatever, and you say, Jesus, I'm so grateful that we got clear weather, that all of us got up and down, in the same, and we all got up and down safely and had a great hike, right? And then follow on from that thought then. So, like, follow on in that narrative, and then you go, isn't it great that we all have the freedom to get out and do that, and that we all have the bodily functions that allow us to put one foot in front of the other and climb this together? And isn't it great that I'm able to walk, and that I'm able to have these great interactions with my friends, and all of these things? It builds up on that, and then by the time you leave the room, your body is already wired, your mind is already wired in that way that you're thinking gratefully. So if you leave the house and there's a crash on the road and there's mad traffic about going into work, you're like just saying, Jesus, thank God that I wasn't involved in this collision, that I'm actually, I'm only just a participant of this traffic that people are in. I'm not actually involved in the collision. And
Wonderful.
people don't think in that way. When they come across a collision, they think, I'm going to be fucking late for work. When they don't think, thank God that I'm actually safe in my car and whatnot. You know what I mean?
See, and this is exactly what I'm saying. I've read so many times that, by being grateful, you have more things in your life to be grateful for, right? And you just explained that there in such a practical way that anybody can, action that, and they can take that philosophy going forward, because, if you're having everything at an abstract level, it's not as impactful. Whereas if you were thinking of it's immediately of value. So that's brilliant.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm doing a kind of I suppose proactive gratitude training at the moment, where I am I'm taking away certain things. So it's a assaging, I think, is the name of this. It's a Zen Buddhist mentality of basically, like, they would either go like fasting, or they would go without talking for numbers of weeks or months, or whatever the case be, Zen Buddhist practitioners. And I'm thinking about that in aspects of my kind of, I suppose, everyday modern life. And my everyday modern life is light at the flick of a switch, and I have hot water running in my taps at all times. I'm running in my shower. So I said, I'm going to start doing cold showers. On the 24th of September, I started doing just cold showers. And I've also now started turning off the lights. So there's no real there's only a small window in one of my bathrooms. In the other bathroom, it's pitch black when there's no light. Now, I have to say, there's a caveat here. I don't want anybody to actually do this, because I'm taking control of this myself or whatever. I don't want people to fucking go slipping in their fucking showers for a cold shower, So I'm this is basically the way that I have, I suppose, decided to go about it. And I like, it's the same with running around my fucking patio. I don't recommend anybody to do that either.
I'd say you're safe enough there, Conor.
I don't think anybody's going to do that. But I do these things because, like, there's two sides to it. The one side is it's a really, really good reminder of all the beautiful things that I have in my life that I just take for granted. Like even having a fresh glass of water here for me to drink right now. And then it's also a time where I can actually feel really vulnerable, because when you're in the dark and there's freezing water going over your head and your chest, and you're trying to control your breathing and things like that, it in that moment, if you didn't have the light on, you still kind of feel like you're vulnerable, you're not at your strongest or whatever the case be. And then you turn the light off, it takes away another sense from you. And you feel like you have to really, it's the ultimate mindfulness, because you're right there in the shower. You're not thinking about, Jesus, I wonder there now if that person likes me. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, you couldn't possibly. I was thinking the same thing there. I was like, that is such mindfulness practice. It's like you couldn't be anywhere else, because you'd be in trouble if your mind went anywhere else.
Absolutely. You have to kind of think of it in that way. So if you're mindful and you're okay with being vulnerable in that way, there's other aspects of life that you're okay with being vulnerable in. And there's times as well where we have to realize that's going to happen, like, you know what I mean? So that's kind of the gratitude training that I've been doing at the moment. I'm messing around with other things now at the moment. Like there's, like, I suppose there's smaller things that just make my life better, like that. Like having a light makes my life better. Having hot water makes my life better. And there's a thing that because I have nearly the same breakfast every morning, right? And now I used to eat porridge in the morning every morning. Now I eat fried eggs on toast, right? And I love having rakes of butter on the bread, you know. And I'm messing around with the idea now of taking the butter away and seeing, do I enjoy it as much?
Okay.
And I think that that's probably going to be the next thing now, because they're all stages. They're all stages in this thing where I feel like the more I actually take away, the more I gain, because like since I've taken away the hot showers and the light and stuff like that, coffee tastes better. Like a hot cup of tea is nicer. I've hot honey and lemon sometimes in the nighttime. I'm a madman for, you know, late night snacking and like eating shit that I really don't need and stuff like that. So I drink honey and lemon at nighttime. It gives me this kind of like, I don't know, satiety where it just makes me feel like I don't really crave the food anymore anyway, whatever it is. Gives me. So I'm like, that cup of honey and lemon is like the best thing ever now, because I'm really, really enjoying these aspects, you know. So
isn't that wonderful, man? Isn't that wonderful? And like, once upon a time, and I know we've discussed this before, but once upon a time, that might be like a heap of pints down the pub, or you know, the stuff that with the toxins that we're putting into us, and like. You mentioned it before, and you touched on it there as well like a while ago. And like these are the things that we used to, you know, occupy ourselves with at weekends, and we'll spend all our money. And there's so many lads in Ireland, I find as well, that they don't maybe feel as though that they have an option. You know, this is you know, we do have this culture around alcohol, and you know, there's a lot of social benefits for it or whatever, but there's a lot of negatives, right? And let's call a spade a spade. And you mentioned that when you were a younger man, you had, you would engage a lot, and that was sort of activities. And now that you've removed those sort of, would it be correct to say that you don't drink alcohol at all anymore?
No, I don't drink alcohol anymore. No, I gave up alcohol it's nearly 2 years ago, and I suppose like my narrative on alcohol is different to a lot of people that have given up alcohol, because I don't think that like as soon as I got away from it and like alcohol left the rear view and left the rear view mirror in my mind and really was gone, I actually realized that it actually had nothing to do with it at all, with like the way that I was feeling. What actually it kind of allowed me to realize was it was my thoughts that were kind of leading me to have these negative reactions with alcohol, because not everybody has negative reactions with alcohol, and not everybody has a bad relationship with alcohol. So it can't be this evil being of alcohol that's like lording over us. It's the way we think about it and the way we use it, and how, you know, taking personal responsibility and accountability for my life and the way that I used alcohol. I didn't use it in the right way. So I made a conscious decision that it doesn't bring anything to my life. It doesn't, and that's why I don't drink anymore, because it doesn't add anything to my life. I've nothing to gain from it. So when I actually stopped drinking, I realized that it actually gave me everything. I didn't lose anything. I gained clarity to kind of navigate my own mind, you know.
Well done, mate. Well done. And you know what I love about you, Conor, and I love nearly everything that I've ever heard about you or heard you say, but for guys like us, right, it's very difficult to be vulnerable at this sort of level, right? So you're accustomed to it, and I'm accustomed to it at this level. But like, what's your like relationship with vulnerability like? What do you feel when you think about and talk about vulnerability amongst guys or amongst everybody in the population? What does this vulnerability, that, you know, expressing who you are without any strings attached, what does that bring to the world, in your opinion?
Jesus, I suppose it opens the door for other people to do it. You know what I mean? And like the thing is about it, I made a conscious decision at the very start of this whole thing to be as honest as I possibly can with people, you know, because I've seen so many things and so many people on Instagram portray this, you know, this, I don't know what it is, the perfect life or whatever, or not even that, but like talking about things that they have actually got no clue about. And you know, geez, we're all guilty sometimes of just, you know, putting our 2 cents into things we don't know about, you know. And I'll even put my hands up. I probably
me too.
But I I really felt like I was going to give people the whole picture, you know,
Good man.
of what this was all about, and I was no angel, and that I had, and that I didn't do, you know, I didn't give a shit about my life for a long period of time, and I didn't give a shit about how I treated myself, or how I thought about myself, or how I, you know, how I interacted, or what I used to give myself some sense of validation in my life. So I don't lie about those things, or I don't, you know, I don't, you know, I'm not worried about breaking a few eggshells. I'll talk about them in an open way. And what I feel that like, whether somebody else wants to take up that, you know, take up that banner and use it in their own life and say, fuck it, you know what? I've actually had times where I've taken the easy way out, and I've fucking not given a shit about my life either. And if he can do it, and he's spent so long fucking beating himself up and having these times where he drank and smoked and all these kind of things, why can't I fucking turn it around like he has? And you know what I mean? And
totally.
Thing, you know.
Totally, and you're giving just the option. You're allowing that potential to be there. Whereas if you weren't vulnerable and weren't honest, and it could be only one guy out of 100, but if it's that one guy, it's worth it, right? If it could be 1 in a million, if it's that one guy, it's worth it. No skin off our nose. But to him, it means everything, or to her, it means everything. And like, you're doing it, man. There was no question that you're doing that. So well done, you. Fucking very proud, yeah. Mostly because you're, but like, and how is your self-talk? Like right now, I've heard you speak about it before, and you do know how people like I view you and people like I feel about you. But how do you feel about yourself, Conor? And how has your evolution of self-talk been?
I'm my own fucking best mate. I love chatting to myself, like, you know what I mean? And I love figuring myself out. And like, it's so funny because like, I'll even talk very honestly about this. Like last night, I was recording an episode of my own podcast, and I recorded it and I finished it up, right? And then I don't know, some light flashed up on my phone, that's some notification, which it does to draw us in and draw us into. And I picked up the phone, I went to open up Instagram, and then I kind of like mindlessly scrolled for about 25 minutes, right? And so where it came from, like, it was like 10:30, and now it's like touching off fucking 11 o'clock. You're like, oh, you're just like, fuck it. You know, if I had gotten ready for bed and all this kind of stuff, I'd have read my book and all this kind of stuff. I noticed myself giving myself a hard time for mindlessly scrolling through Instagram. And I was like, no, like, that has to stop. Because I'm not giving myself a hard time over this, because I've made the choice to do it. And just because I could have been reading instead of mindlessly scrolling through this Instagram, I could have done, but I didn't, and that's okay. I'm not going to give myself a hard time because I have an okay relationship with it. If I'm honest with myself, I have an okay relationship with social media. I get on, I say what I want to say, and I post up what I want to say, and that's it. And I don't spend mad time looking at other people's lives. It just doesn't do anything for me, right? But there's time to time, once every couple of weeks, where I'll just mindlessly scroll, like everybody does. And I always seem to have this bad fucking thing of, Jesus, what the fuck are you doing? Like, why are you doing this? Blah, blah, blah. And now I'm just like, no, you don't have a problem with it. It's okay every now and then to just do this. And it was just like me with drinking, right? 50% of it was the actual drinking. And then the other 50% of how shit I felt about myself was feeling bad and remorseful and shame for drinking and for going out and doing all this shit and feeling terrible and treating my body so terribly. It's a cycle of that. So 25 minutes of scrolling through Instagram isn't great for me, but me giving me a hard time about it is definitely not great for me. If I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna do it, and I'm gonna live with that choice, and that's it. And that's such a really small thing. Like, it's a tiny thing to think, but it's
powerful, man. Yeah, it is powerful, because once upon a time, that negative talk or negative thought would have, it would have come with more and more and more, and can spiral out of control. And all of a sudden, you're in this cycle of these negative thoughts, which have massive ramifications and repercussions. So, like, there will be residue of that for both of us and for lots of people. But when you just catch yourself in the moment and go, you know what? I don't deserve this. This isn't that bad. It's like, on to the next one. We have another half an hour coming. Why we do that? But,
absolutely.
Yeah, and I do think that's powerful. And but again, you know, it's just being aware of it and catching yourself in the moment and going, you know what? Yeah, I'm catching myself in the moment of having the, you know, being on social media, but I'm also catching myself in the moment of beating myself up with this, and nobody else would beat myself up about it. Like I say that, I love that you say you're your best friend. I heard you say that loads, because that was something that I had to learn for myself too. And it's just like, I remember my older brother catching me once upon a time when I was really down on myself, really negative. I was like, Daniel, would you speak like that? Do it like that about anybody else? Would you speak like that about any one of your friends or any of us in the family? And I wouldn't, you know, but sometimes we're harsh on ourselves and we just gotta cut ourselves some slack. So I'm glad you're doing that.
There's a fine line of being honest with yourself and taking accountability for your life, and there's another side of kind of realizing you're a fucking human being and you make mistakes and you have to move forward from that too, you know.
Yeah, and this judgment, you know, what's right and what, you know, it's just like, be honest with yourself, and that's good, that's positive.
Yeah, for sure.
And like with this year, okay, so 2020 just been an odd year, right? And COVID-19, and we've already touched upon how like significant it was for you and your plans. But it's probably messed up lots of people's plans, and everybody has had, you know, to make adjustments this year, and there's been additional stressors in everybody's life, and a lot of problems that were there might have been exacerbated, and there's like new problems that we wouldn't have encountered before. And I just get the vibe that there's a lot of people struggling, right? And I suppose it is natural.
Oh, there definitely is. There definitely is. There's a lot of people that were a lot more worse off than I was out of this whole thing. Absolutely. You know what I mean? Like, my project got cancelled or whatever, but it was going to happen at some point. I mean, it is going to happen next year and whatnot. You know what I mean? But there's but it didn't, not so much as like, you know, like there's one thing about plans being disturbed, right? That's one thing. But then there's lifestyles and everyday life being disturbed, and that happened to me just like it did to everybody else. But it definitely didn't happen to me in the detrimental way that it did so many other people. You know what I mean? And that's why.
Why was that? What did you do, or how was it for you that you were able to maintain this level of health and happiness, that you were able to maintain your personal well-being during this shitstorm of a year? What works for you, Conor?
I think that like for me, I was actually like the external aspects of my life, not so much the internal aspects of my life, were set up in a favorable way for me. I have a great relationship with my parents. I'm living at home, and like, so you're spending so much more time with family members and stuff like that, and that's stressful for certain people. But for me, I have a great relationship with my folks, and that made it so much easier for me to actually get through all of this. So I realized that that's not the case for everybody else. You know what I mean? And so, like, I suppose that the main idea that I keep going back to when people tell me, like, you know, how are you staying positive when there's nothing to look forward to? And I'm like, Jesus, I think there is a lot to look forward to. Not even so much in my life, but in a universal way, I think there is something to look forward to, because
nice.
I feel like 2020, you know, like there's these memes coming out, like, you know, if 2020 was whatever, or the hand that 2020 dealt us, and this, you know, the guy, scary movie with the man there.
Take my good hand.
Yeah, it's like, I think we need to stop that narrative. Like, we need to stop that narrative that tells us that 2020 is a waste of a year, because 2020 for me personally, and for in terms of the general population, I think it's been a year of transition.
Yeah.
I think we are transitioning more towards favoring and putting more faith in humanity over technology.
Yes.
I think that's the main thing. And I think that people are finally actually starting to realize that human beings are important, and not only important, but we have to rely upon each other.
Yes.
We actually want to, because, like, I'm gonna say something quite very, very true, but very negative, and then I'm going to say something that I really do believe, and it's very, very positive. Firstly, I'm going to say that the world is dying, right? The world is actually dying right now, like, in terms of an environmental way, it's dying, right? And that's just a fact. But what I would say is, if 2020 has shown me anything, it's that we are actually starting to realize that we are the way out. We are the way out of, we are the light at the end of the tunnel is us.
Yes.
So we are, as human beings, designed and we are programmed to survive. And I think that's what's really going to show at the end of all this, is that we are going to show that we can bring ourselves out of the caveman era and into the modern age. And now we have to deal with the problems of that.
Yeah.
We have to deal with the problems of the modern age. And I think that's where we're finally realizing, and it's really, really entering the narrative of people's minds, that we are the answer and we are the way out. And I feel that we're going to rebuild ourselves out of the coronavirus and out of COVID. We are going to rebuild ourselves, and we are going to rebuild the planet. So I feel like that's something that I'm generally looking forward to. Outside of my own personal life, I'm looking forward to loads of different things in my life, you know.
Yeah. Like. Give us more suggestions. What are you looking forward to, bud?
I'm looking forward to, I don't know, maybe having a family someday.
They're going to be legends, by the way. They're going to be legends. You just procreate as much as possible, Conor. That's how you save the world.
It's 15 or 20 babies out of there. No.
That Meyer will have the best football and hurling team in all history.
We'll have a running team. We'll have running around Meyer. I'm looking forward to becoming an adventurer, and that's what I'm saying to people. Like, people are like, "Are you employed?" I'm like, I'm trying to be a professional adventurer. So for many people, that's like me trying to be a professional unemployed person. But
look, who says it can't be done, Conor?
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. And I think that, like, the thing is, there's a serious gap in the market there. You know, like there's not many people wanting to do it, like, you know. So that's what I've been doing really with all of the ultra marathons, and with like things like the patio run and things like that, is really discovering that, like, and really showing people that when I talk about adventure, I don't necessarily mean like going off to far-flung places, even though I did some trips around the country and whatnot. It's not about that. It's about sometimes an adventure of the mind, you know, an adventure of where you can actually see the corners of your mind. So I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to really seeing where that goes. And a lot of people are asking me, like, you know, do you want to be like an international adventurer? And I was like, absolutely, because Ireland is like the same size as Greater Manchester in terms of population, right? So I feel like I love my country, but I want to bring it out into the entire world, and I want Ireland represented on that type of stage. You know what I mean? And so what I'm really seeking to do is to see if I can get people and companies that are willing to back this. You know.
No, you heard this here first. Can please be ever just give Conor money? Like, I'm a student, Conor, and, you know, I'm still going to send you a few bob, because if there's one man I'm going to support, it's Conor O'Keefe. And everybody listening here right now, right? Conor, can you tell us please about Project 32, the Mark II version? So happening next year, correct?
Yes. I haven't set an actual date for it yet. So, like, for the revised version of this.
Well, how could you, right?
It's so tough, man. I was going to set a date this week, and then I was like, it's just one of those things where I'm like, I need more
certainty.
I just need more information. Yeah, I need more information. I think that the government, Jesus Christ, like, look, you know, people can give out and all this kind of stuff. No one knows really what to fucking do, like, you know.
Not at all.
Ireland is caught up in this, you know, we're the small kid on the yard at the moment, like, you know. We're last on the pecking order, so, like, we're really kept in the dark about a lot of shit. So I can see why people are getting anxious and frustrated and things like that, but I feel like if people put their energies into something that's a bit more positive at certain times, it's very easy to say sometimes, you know, but are we fundraising?
Are we fundraising for the 32 yet?
Yeah, I'm still fundraising. I still have the fundraising page open.
Will you give a plug to that there, Conor, please? Could you give a plug to where people can find that?
Yeah, so it's on my Instagram, Cokeeffe, COKEEFFE. It's in the link in the bio there. It's www.idonate.ie/TFS323232. So that's the actual address. That's the URL, and there's about 33,000 raised. So we're actually literally like,
well done, man.
We're dead on a third of the 100,000 that I wanted to raise, and what I'm doing is I'm raising 100 for Pieta. If we go over that in any way, I'm actually any of the money that we raise over that is going to go towards environmental concerns. So we're gonna you know, hit two birds with one stone here, and we're hopefully going to get some to get some money for environmental concerns as well. And like,
well done, buddy.
I can actually see the workings of it on the ground, like, you know what I mean?
Well done, mate. Look, well done. It's just so admirable what you're doing and have been doing so consistently and look, and you know, as you said, there's a silver lining in every cloud, and you know, if anything, this is just giving us another year. Let's get funding for this man. He deserves it. And you know, if and when this happens, he's going to smash it out of the park. Well, let's help the guy out, because he's doing stuff that nobody else on the planet can do, or nobody else on the planet I've ever come across can do. And what he's trying to achieve in the world is so admirable. And you got all my backing, man. I just love everything about what you're trying to do. And every time I've ever seen you speak, I'm just been so impressed. I remember the Thrive Festival here. You were talking with those boys, Milk for Tea. I was just all about the conversation. I was in the crowd, and I was like, yes, that's my boy. And I was like,
yeah.
Weren't they legends?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. It was great. It was really cool, really cool.
It was a brilliant festival. The whole thing, the whole, in the convention center. But you were on the stage more than anybody else I saw, and I was just delighted to see it. You were brilliant, man. I don't think I ever got a chance to say that to you because I was just in the audience. You were brilliant.
Thank you.
Most welcome. And your podcast, right? Tell us about this. How's it going? Like, where did we find it? What's it called? What's the premise of it? Tell us.
Okay, well, like the whole, the podcast will hopefully be available. The first episode in maybe it's the 14th today, maybe the last week of October. I'm hoping like as early as possible, really, like to start rolling them out, you know. But I suppose I want everything in place first. It will probably be Spotify, but I'll probably put it on a few other platforms, well, depending on what platforms people use to get their podcasts. The name of the podcast is going to be Flip the Script. So
nice.
Flip the Script is like exactly what I did with my life. Was I had written these scripts for myself, negative ones usually, and my life has kind of been about flipping those and about flipping them around and becoming from my own worst enemy to my own best friend. And I suppose how people can do that. But I also want to I also just want to talk sometimes about things that interest me, or keep people up to date with the training that I'm doing and with certain other thought patterns and aspects training that I have and things, you know. So it's going to be very varied, and that's what I like.
No doubt.
It'll keep it exciting, like, you know. It'll keep it exciting, and you know, it'll people will want to listen to the next episode and whatnot, you know?
Well, no doubt, man. All you have to do is listen to for 10 minutes. You want more and more and more. If I could meet Glenmire next door to you, I would, but I didn't too impressed. But look, honestly, mate, and like just what you said, I love that title. I didn't know what you were going with because I knew you were weighing things up. But Flip the Script, and you know what I love about that? What you mentioned there about COVID and the environment and the world, right? We're just coming to the realization that as human beings, we have got ourselves into this situation. And just like you, the 7.5 billion of us, when we get this awareness, we can flip the script.
Absolutely.
And we can save the world as well as saving ourselves.
For sure.
So if everybody could take you as an example in that respect, you know, how much positivity is it brought to your own world and your own life? You didn't lose anything. Like with alcohol, you said you only gained. So if we were all to flip the script and look after each other and look after the environment, we have two places we live in the world. So we have the planet and we have our bodies. And you're looking after both, mate. So if the rest of us could follow suit, sure, wouldn't it be a better place?
Yeah, happy days. I couldn't have put it better myself, man, to be honest.
Well, look, man, credit where it's due. And as I said, I'm your biggest fan. So, look, well done and Flash. Tell us about Flash.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, look, man, there's one thing that I do miss, right? So, growing up, I had a little Jack Russell called Kirby. Loved it absolute bits. And unfortunately, when I was in Southeast Asia, I was in Cambodia, I got the news that she had passed away, but she had a great life. And I loved my dog. I loved my dog so much.
Yeah.
I live vicariously through you. I'm on your Instagram. I was like, Conor's rubbing Flash. I feel like I'm running Flash. So tell me the story. I know you have the news in that regard, but tell me, how was your experience raising that dog, and how important was Flash to you? Tell us.
Yeah, I got Flash from Autism Assistance Dogs Ireland. So like basically he was going to be an autism assistance dog for a child with autism, right? Because I don't know, like I know obviously probably a bit more than the average person about autism because of the interactions with AADI, but like a lot of children with autism are prone to bolting. They get very, very bad anxiety, and they're prone to bolting off and running off. So that's why the assistance dogs are there. They're tethered to the dog, and the dog is there to calm them and soothe them and keep them kind of from bolting off. So that's what Flash was going to be, you know, from the get-go, you know. But unfortunately for Flash, he actually developed a hip condition. So his hips didn't develop properly. So he actually is going to be an autism companion dog. So he's going to be a companion dog for a child with autism that's not so far along on the spectrum, that isn't really prone to bolting, might just have some bit of social anxiety, and he's going to help him in his kind of journey through I suppose childhood and into adolescence. So we said goodbye to Flash 2 weeks ago.
Oh man.
Yeah, he joined his new family, but we're getting loads of photos and videos of him in his new family and all this kind of stuff. And man, he looks incredibly happy. He's doing what he's supposed to be doing, like, you know.
Yeah.
Like, the thing is, what we're all searching for in our lives, and the thing that I've been searching for the last 2 years, is meaning and purpose. And that's what he has in abundance, you know what I mean? In his new family is he has meaning, he has purpose, he has love, and he has something that he's waking up, and he doesn't even know what he's doing every day, but he's doing it, you know?
Oh, wow.
You know, so it's really good to see that, because I suppose it's come full circle, you know.
Yeah.
So we had him for a year, like far longer than we should have had him because of COVID. We had him for like an extra 5 months or something like that. So we really got to know him and really got his personality. I remember like about 5 or 6 days ago coming down to make coffee in the kitchen, and I could hear him, you know, rustling around in his bed. He wasn't there, like. You know, it was my mind was saying, this is what you should be hearing, you know. So it was hard. But
look, and that must be hard for you, right? But like, you know, on the macro grand scheme, so the grand scheme of things, like Flash is doing what the rest of you and the O'Keefes are doing. You're making the world a better place, and you can't, and in an indirect way, you're like that's your impact. Because I feel as though I know Flash from your Instagram stories. I feel as though I have a relationship with. So, and you know, that dog is happy because of the interactions that you have had and the relationship that you built, and now that's been passed into another family. So look, man, I'm all about that life. You know, it's nothing but love in terms of what you're doing in the world, and everybody else. Please follow this man. Please support this man. If you see him on the street, give him a high five or elbow tap or D-tap, whatever we're doing these days. Because Conor O'Keefe is doing work that nobody else on the planet is doing. And guys, you know that it's nothing but love. Lads, I'll see you next week. Conor, you're an absolute gent. Thank you so much for coming on board, and look after yourself, okay? Look after everybody else. You look after yourself. All right, brother. Nothing but love. Take it easy. All the best.